Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Prince Automation Destination. This is Prince. I hope you are doing well. So today, let us discuss about another important, interesting topic, that is multi-user parallel execution in Selenium. So as part of this lecture, we will try to understand what is the use case and how to implement the solution for same. And later we will discuss about the implementation in BDD Cucumber based Java framework. Now, what is the prerequisite in order to understand the current lecture? So you should be aware on Selenium, meaning you should have some working knowledge of Selenium, and you should be aware on parallel execution concept. In case you are not already aware, I would request you to please check out the video where I have already covered from scratch on parallel execution step by step. So I'll be sharing the link of same in icon. Though I'll be covering parallel execution in the current lecture as well at high level. Right. So now this is the use case. So when we work in industry, sometimes what happens is for some of the applications, same user is not allowed to be logged in concurrent sessions. Meaning, suppose we are launching the application and we have logged into the application and we are trying to open the same application with the same user. So same is not allowed by some of the applications. As a result, during parallel execution, it become a challenge for parallel execution. So what is the alternative? Meaning we will have to feed a different user to the each test case during the parallel sessions. So this is what is the use case, right? Now how to solve it? So let us discuss about the general case. Suppose we have one application where we have test case 1, test case 2 and test case 3 and we want to run them in parallel. So we will simply give the same user to test case 1, test case 2 and test case 3. It will work smoothly. But in applications where it is restricted to not use the same users across concurrent sessions, meaning same user is not allowed for the concurrent sessions, in such cases what we'll have to do is, what is the approach that we are going to follow is, we'll have to give a separate user to user test case 1, test case 2 will utilize user 2 and test case 3 will utilize user 3. But how they will get these users? So for that purpose we'll be creating one user pool and we'll be storing the users. So let us say we have stored user 1, user 2 and user 3. So once test case 1 have got user 1 and it has executed the test cases, so it will return the user back to the user pool. Similarly, when test case 2 will complete the execution, it will also return the user back to user pool. Similarly, user 3, right? And then these users will be again utilized for the next execution cycle, meaning for the rest of the test cases. So how we're going to store these user in user pool? So for that purpose we are going to use blocking queue concept. So blocking queue is a concept which is used to store the users in the or to use to store the elements in the queue manner, but it is thread safe, meaning multiple threads can access it and can get the user and then can return the user back to it, right? So this is the concept that we're going to utilize, right? So what we'll be using during the implementation? So first of all, we'll be creating one JSON file, which will be having a JSON array of credentials. Then we'll be creating the POJO with respect to this particular JSON file. We'll be creating one utility file with the help of JSON data bind library, and we'll be utilizing the concept of object mapper to map the JSON where we have painted the credentials into the POJO, right? So this utility will be utilized to convert the JSON into POJO, and we'll be utilizing the plugin of IntelliJ. And then what we'll be doing is we'll be loading the credentials from this POJO to the user pool manager. And during the before hook, before is the hook in Cucumber, which is utilized to execute some section before execution of scenario or before execution of test case. So what we'll be doing is, here we'll be setting the user, meaning we'll be getting the current user from the pool and we'll be storing it as a current user, and we'll be utilizing the same during the execution. And later in the after hook, that is after scenario or after test case, we'll be returning the user back to the pool. So we'll understand each of these steps one by one, right? So let me jump onto the framework. So this is my BDD Cucumber based framework for which we have already covered the series. In case you want to understand BDD Cucumber from scratch, I'll be sharing the link of playlist in the I icon. Right. So this is BDD framework where we are utilizing Cucumber with TestNG. So we are extending the abstract TestNG Cucumber test, which is responsible for integration of Cucumber with the TestNG. So once we are extending this, then we are overriding this particular method, scenarios method from this particular class. And here we need to provide parallel equal to true. So this is the entry point for the parallel execution, right? Now, this is the test case. So first of all, we are launching the URL, and prior to launching the URL, we need the driver instance as well. So here somewhere in hooks, we would be defining somewhere the driver. So create driver dot get instance dot set driver. So browser is Chrome. So if I go inside here, set browser. So this create driver, here we are utilizing the concept of singleton along with thread local to get the driver instance, right? So let me explain. So this is create driver class, and this is the private constructor, which indicates this is a singleton. And here we have defined one variable of this particular class, which is a static variable, and we have defined driver as a thread local so that each thread can get its own driver. So this is the purpose of thread local. Now we have defined one method, get instance method, where we are checking if instance is null, right, which would be the case when we will be calling this particular method for the first time. Once like there is no instance, it will assign it to instance, and from the rest of the execution, during the rest of the execution, it will refer the same instance, right? So this method is used to set the driver, because this driver is a thread local. So with the help of set method, we are setting this particular driver, and using get driver, we are getting the method driver, right? So this is overall the parallel execution, how it is implemented. Now this is the basic test case of source demo. So we are going to refer source demo as well for multi-user. So this is the source demo app, which has multiple credentials. So I'll be utilizing 2 or 3 credentials for multi-user credential execution, right? But this is the normal case where we are launching the application, and we are entering the credentials, username and password, and we are clicking on login, and we are verifying the product, right? So now how to convert this into multi-user case, right? So for that purpose, we'll have to first change this particular statement, because here we were sure that we are going to pass these credentials, but in case of multi-user, we are going to read it from POJO, from JSON, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to write a separate step definition, right? So let me copy this particular line, and user enter credentials, right, for multi-user. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to this login step def, where we have defined, where we were using defined this step definition, right? So this was the previous step definition. I'm simply going here, and I'm going to copy the step definition corresponding to this particular step, which we have just defined, right? So we have defined the step. Now we have defined the step definition, and I'm going to copy this same section, because we would need username and password. But in previous case, we were passing username and password from feature file, but in this case, we'll be utilizing it from from the user pool, right? So now let us come back, and let us create our JSON file first, right? So we have written the feature file, right? And which is launching the URL, entering multiple user credentials, clicking on login, and verifying products, right? Now this particular step need username and password, which we'll be getting from the user pool, right? So that's why we need to implement this particular strategy. So let us first of all create one JSON file. So one JSON file which will be containing the array of these credentials, right? So I have created one under SRC test resources section. What I have done is I have created one multi-user credentials directory. I'm going to define one file or create one file, and let us give it name multi-user credentials, right? And provide the extension .json, right? And then after, what we're going to do is, this is the syntax. So you can define syntax based on your need, but in my case, this is the syntax. But make sure you need to provide array for sure, and there should be some root element here as well. So this is JSON object inside which we have list of credentials, right? So for now, this is single user. I'll slowly move to multiple users as well. So let us implement it for single user first, right? Now we got JSON, right? So this is the first step. Now we need to create POJO classes, right? So for that purpose, I'm simply going to copy this, and I'm going to navigate to SRC test Java section. And here also I have created one package, where what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on new, and I'm going to click on generate POJO from JSON. So how I got this particular option? I got this option because of plugin I have installed. So there is a plugin in IntelliJ, JSON to Java, or there are like multiple JSON to POJO generator. So wherever you want to create the POJO, you need to simply click on this particular package, right click, click on new, and generate POJO from JSON. And I'm going to utilize Lombok Lombok is for the readability purpose, so it will not provide the long code, it will provide the extensions, right? I'll discuss about that, right? Let me click on generate, and as a result it will create two files, right? So if you will notice, this is user credentials, which is username and password, right? Because same is defined in this particular thing. So this is this section, right? And now on top, this is list of user credentials, right? So that's why if I go back here, this is list of user credentials. So if you will notice, I used Lombok. That's why it is showing @data. What does it mean? Meaning it has getter and setter available, right? So that's why Lombok is used, right? Now come back to this particular thing. Now we need one utility class to map the JSON into POJO, right? So I'll be going here, we'll be creating one class and we'll be calling it as credentials mapper. And here we'll be writing the method public void get credentials, right? And here we are going to utilize the concept of object mapper, which is a part of JSON data bind library, right? Which I'm utilizing. Object mapper, new object mapper dot read value, right? So if you will notice, this read value expect multiple type of parameters. So I'm going to provide the location of JSON in the form of file, comma, what is the return type? So we are going to get the credentials actually. So credentials dot class, right? Because we need the list of credentials, right, from this particular credential mapper, right? And this side will be providing the file, and here we'll be providing the location of this particular file, right? Copy path. I clicked on this JSON, I right click and copy path, and copying the path from the content route, right? So I'll provide this particular JSON path. So if you will notice, it is showing some exception. Let me add this into signature, right? So we have achieved so far. So we have written the utility class to map JSON into POJO, right? Now the next thing is we need to create one pool manager, right? Where we'll be utilizing the concept of blocking queue, and then we'll be utilizing the current user concept, where we'll be utilizing thread local concept, right? Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create. So here it is giving some error. So let me return this actually, because, and what would be the return type? Return type is going to be credentials, right? Because we are getting list of credentials. And let me provide the colon here, semicolon, I mean, right? So because when we are reading this particular JSON file, it is giving us list of credentials. That's why it is going to be credentials, right? And if I come here, user credentials, this credentials mapper, right? And if I go inside credentials, this is list of user credential item, right? This is what we want to return, right? Now the next thing is we are going to create user pool manager as mentioned here, right? So I'll go here and I'll create one class user pool manager, right? And here I'm going to define the user pool with the help of blocking queue, private, static, and blocking queue of type, because we are going to store user item, meaning we need credentials, which is username and password, which is user credentials item, right? So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to provide it here and give it name user pool, right? And new linked blocking DQ, right? Now what we need to do, we need to have one static block so that we can load all the credentials into the user pool. So I'm going to write load credentials method to pull, and here's what we are going to do. I'm going to define this particular method, right? And how we will get these credentials, because we were having these credentials into JSON file, and from JSON they will come to POJO class. So now what we're going to do is we are going to call credentials mapper dot, this should be a static method. So let me go here and let me define public static, right? So user pool manager dot get credentials. So we got the list of credentials. Now we need specific user credentials, right? So we are getting one by one, right? Now we got the list of user credentials, and now what we are going to do, we are going to utilize for each method, so that we can add each user one by one. Because with get credentials, we will get the list of credentials. With this, we will get one user item, which is username and password, which is user credentials item. And now we are going to add them into user pool one by one, right? So we are going to utilize user pool colon add method. So user pool, this blocking queue has one method add, which is utilized to add the credentials, right? Here it is showing some exception. Let me add this exception. So the exception will appear here as well. So let me surround it with try catch block. So whenever this class is loaded, this static block is automatically called, and as a result, these credentials will be loaded, right? Now we have reached so far, right? So user pull to load all the available credentials, right? So now all the credentials are loaded. In our case, as of now, it is 1. So we'll be discussing about more credentials as well. Now the next thing is we need to get the current user from the pool, and we'll be utilizing the same during the test case execution. So how the test case will start? Test case start from the hook section, from the before section, right? So let me go to hook section. So I have defined one class hooks. Here this is the before section, as we are executing test cases in Chrome. So here what we are going to do is I'm going to do user pool manager and set current user. This is one method that I'm going to define, right? Why I'm doing this, you will soon understand this, right? Because before execution of each scenario, we need a user, right? So how we will get this user? So for that purpose, we'll use user pool dot take, right? With take, we'll get the user, right? And now we can get this exception, and the take return type would be this particular thing, because user pool contain this particular thing, right? Right. Now we need to store this user for the separate thread, right? So for that purpose, what we'll be using is we'll be using the concept of thread local, private static thread local, and user credentials item, right? And let us give it name current user and new thread local. This is how we use thread local concept. So thread local is used to get the separate reference, or in this case separate user for the each thread, right? So now we got the user from the pool, so we need to store it into the current user. So I'll be using current user dot set, and let us set it here, right? So if I come back here, so we have went into before hook, we got the user from the pool. Now we need to use the same user during the test case execution, right? So how we will utilize it, because we have stored it into the thread local, that is current user. Now I'll be coming back to this particular feature file, user enter credentials, right? So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to use user pool manager dot get current user. So how we will get that current user? Let me show you. So I have defined this method. Now let me create this method, right? So what it will do is, simply current user dot get method. So thread local has two methods, one to set, another to get. And we need to change the return type as well. So what should be the return type? This is the return type, right? This is what we wanted, right? Because we are going to get this, right? Now with this, what we can get is we can get the username, right? So we get the username for the current user. Let me store it into username variable. So same will be passed to this particular locator, right? Then let me get the password as well. So user pool manager dot get current user dot get password, right? So this is how it is going to work, right? So we have achieved so far, we got the user from the pool and we set it as a current user, and then we are getting it using the get current user method with the help of thread local. Now once the test case will execute, the control will go to after hook, and in after hook we need to return the user back to the pool, right? For that purpose, I'll be again going back to hook section, right? And I'll be going to after section. Here again, I'm going to put this into @Chrome tag section, because we are utilizing the test cases in Chrome. We are executing the test cases in Chrome, right? So user pool manager, and let us create another method, return user to pool, right? So as there won't be any method, so let me create this method into this particular user pool manager. So here what we are going to do, current user dot get, first of all, right? So what would be the current user dot get? It would be this thing. And then after, what we are going to do is, first of all, we will remove, because from current user we got it into this particular user credentials item. Then we are going to remove it from the thread local, right? So we'll be utilizing remove method, and then we are going to add the credentials, right, to user pool again. So user pool dot offer is the method to add this credentials, right, to add this user back to the pool, right? So we have, so if I'll repeat all the steps, so what we have done is, we have created the JSON, we have created a POJO, we written the utility method to map the JSON into POJO, then we written user pool manager to load all the credentials, and then after in before hook we got the current user and set it as a current user in thread local. And then we are utilizing it in the step definition, and in after hook we are returning back it to user pool, right? So let me execute this particular test case now, right? So in order to execute this, I'm going to copy this particular tag, right? And I'm going to runner section, right? So where is the runner? So let me go here and let me provide this particular tag, which is already provided. Let me copy it again and let me execute this test case. So as this is single test case, it will execute once. We will soon execute for multiple credentials as well. So it should work fine. So if it is executed successfully, it should work fine, right? Meaning we should see successful message or test case should be passed. So it is executed. Now what we will do is, we will come back here. We will copy this particular test case 3 times, right? Meaning 2 more times. And let us change the name, credentials 2 and credentials 3, right? And credentials 1. So we have written this statement only once. Now it is going to read it from the JSON file. So in JSON file also, we should have multiple credentials. So I'm going to provide comma, and I'm going to copy this thing, and again going to copy this, right? Now I'll go back to source demo. So in source demo, we have multiple users, but the password is common. So I'm going to use lockout user, for which it won't allow the login. Where for error user, it will allow the login, but it will show some error, right? So I'm going to provide lockout user for one case and error user for another case, right? So first case is valid one. This is also valid, but after logging in, we will get some error, right? And this is lockout. In this case, we won't be able to execute also. We won't be able to log in also, right? Now let me execute this particular 3 test cases again, right? And let us see whether we are able to successfully execute them. If we are able to execute them successfully, it means we have implemented the concept properly, right? So if you will see, there are 3 instances which are executing, right? So same we will verify from the report section. So this is lockout user, right? If I go here, here it is logged in, change your password, you got error, right? So we executed 3 test case. Let us see, it should show 2 as pass and 1 as fail. So let me see. So there are 2 test cases which got passed and 3 test cases got, third test case got failed, right? So let me show you the report. So in report, what I have done is, I have attached the screenshot on every step to verify that whatever we have implemented is correctly, right? Now I'm going here. So this is extent report. In case you are not aware how to integrate extent report, I have created a video around this. I'll be sharing the link of same. So this is credentials 1. So if you will notice, this is launching URL. This is using error user and password. Here we'll be able to log in as I discussed, but after logging in, we will see some error here, but it has only this error issue only, right? So this is credentials 1. This is credentials 3, where it would be using lockout user. So let me check. So this is logged out user, meaning we won't be able to log in, right? If I'll talk about the third test case, which is credentials 2. So this is first screen and this is second screen. So it is utilizing standard user, right? So this is using the correct user, right? So first one used error, second used locked out user credentials, and third utilized the standard user, which is the correct users. So this is how we can utilize the concept of blocking queue to implement multi-user parallel execution. And this is what I wanted to cover as part of current lecture. Thank you for watching. I would request you to please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you once again.